You know,
A lot of those festivals have become way too expensive and way too regulated,
oh yeah.
and way too many people show up to like. There's still some of the smaller laid back ones you can go to. Like there's one that's by like Lewiston or something. It's like a small one that's pretty good.
Anyways, we're live, just so you know. You could go ahead and stop talking about how much you love Jenks Garden. We're live now.
We don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. I was getting pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just talking about how Jank bends him over.
Got a lot worse than that. A lot more graphic.
I know he uses BDS gear or whatever he was talking about. It's crazy. Guard gnome, you're a sick gnome.
Yep. Gyroscope.
Okay, anything goes. I guess that's true.
Well,
Those
at least the
guidelines,
title's
though.
accurate.
Just because I'm a love slave to the TYT logo doesn't mean I'm like a bad person. God damn you people.
Oh, here we go. I need to do that.
Yeah, I think you are a love slave to him. You give him far too much free advertising.
Well, just to be specific, it's the logo itself. I'm a type of fetishist. I have a fetish for the TYT logo. I just consider TYT a good like I have a couple of I focus my energies on what I think I can affect. And there's a couple of hate organizations that I really hate. Like Walmart is one, TYT is another. Like, so I just kind of like
McDonald's.
Yep, but like fast food places. Like you guys have heard me bitch about all these places before.
Amazon.
I just keep bitching about them, and like I don't.
We need to make a collective list of the companies that are on the shit list. Like guaranteed, we can all agree on these people have horrible business models and it's killing everyone. It's not helping anyone out. It's not a productive business model. It's an extractive business model. Yeah, Walmart would qualify. Fast foods would qualify. Amazon would qualify. I mean, even probably FedEx and like UPS would qualify to a degree because when you think about it, they're leeching off the postal system, the federal one.
All capitalistic enterprises are designed to farm the population to a greater or lesser extent. And as long as there's like a reasonable like balance to that where like consolidated interest and individuals have like an equal stake in the society, then at least it's somewhat workable. Whereas like the system we have now where they just farm the population and the population gets nothing but shit and worse conditions out of it is
okay. One second. Okay. Because that I've heard that example given, like, well, not that specific one, but in that general context of how you explained it. And the one thing, it's like, okay, how do I put this? Okay, you got the McDonald's model, which is screw the consumer, give them garbage, sell it at the highest price for the cheapest crap you can give them. That's basically their model. Okay, and then you could also have like a production company, something that makes something a real good or something that, I'm always on about the efficiency stuff. I mean, you have a company producing something, they can sell some, they're first of all, they're using materials from feedstock companies. So that sets up companies upline. And then all the processing it takes to get to the point to where, well, because they'll have to make the machines, they'll have to get the resources. They need technical for designing what they have. They need their initial business model of what they want to sell. They need installers. They need financing. They need, a big chain that goes through that has to get this all to work together. But you can have that chain with McDonald's where it fucks people, or you can have that chain to where it creates a beneficial product. Like instead of extractive, it extracts a certain chunk of money as compensation for the creation of the good. But let's say the good makes you so you never have a power bill again, or the good makes it so you constantly have a never-ending supply of clean water, or the good allows you to create a hydroponic indoor gardening thing or something like that, or the good allows you to make fuel, or the good allows you to make clothing, or the good something, some sort of that serves a purpose. Because basically what you're doing there is you're not an extractive model. What you're doing is you're a building up model, because you take a certain chunk out for compensation, but overall those people constantly have more money. You've improved the efficiency, the things that suck away money out of their life. So overall they'll constantly start to build up a little wealth.
Well, a lot of it is about secondary effects. Like, you're not just out to produce like a useful product.
If all those money, or if all those people that buy that useful product have extra money,
you're not just out to produce a useful product. What you're looking for is positive secondary effects instead of negative secondary effects. Like, so for the McDonald's example, like, you go to McDonald's and like you got these fucking wrappers, and they just get thrown away, and they're that's trash. A negative secondary effect.
That can be fixed with wax paper.
What we want to do is have processes that have positive secondary effects.
Yeah, like the garbage, any garbage from McDonald's ends up going for fuel or for waste or for some productive aspect to it.
Yep, and so like. You just want to have processes that have positive secondary effects. It's always the secondary effects that get you. Like, it's usually not, for example, it's usually not like...
That's just not the secondary effect. That's the business model itself.
It's usually not the... You're usually not in ground zero of a nuke strike, for example. You're like in one of the blast radiuses outside of it. And that's a good way to think about things. Okay, like... it's not the primary effect that's going to affect you in most cases. It's the secondary effects. It's not McDonald's like selling hamburgers that causes like these negative effects on society. It's the fact that they're cutting down rainforests to do it, and it's the fact that they're dumping trash and all this other shit. So it's important to differentiate between those things.
I would have to say, actually, on the rainforest things, right, because they've cut down area for more cattle fields, but also they'll use junk meat, and sometimes it isn't a lot of the times it isn't even all burger. And on the health side, that's another deferred cost, because you eat a bunch of fucking McDonald's and a bunch of fast food, it's not good for you. I mean, it's more like candy than it is food. So I mean, McDonald's has so many externalized costs to it, it's ridiculous. I mean,
again, those are secondary effects. Well, if we're going to talk about capitalism in the sense that like selling things produces an effect, okay, like
depends on what you're selling.
It's not the selling of the item that is producing the negative effect. We could have a system that incorporates elements of capitalism, and things would be just fine. It's not capitalism per se that's causing these problems. It's having it's having an out of control form of capitalism, for one.
It's the theft model of business that's causing the problem.
It's the secondary effects that our model of capitalism is producing.
Well, I don't know. Some of it's not even secondary. Secondary effects is a bad way of putting it, because in the context of strictly with like the production factory and the McDonald's thing, I guess there's a secondary effect there because, okay, in the McDonald's thing, people have crappier food, lower health outcomes. It uses more money for the amount of food you get, so they're going to generally have less money. Where on the other one, the secondary effect is they have less money right off the bat. They're able to recoup that and save costs, and then they generally long term just have more money they can spend. Which good secondary effect. Now they can do other shit or employ other people or whatever. And it's also like, I don't know. There's so many for each industry. There's a set chunk of things that happen. Like you said with the McDonald's, you got the cut down trees and the cattle farms. Well, like with manufacturing, you'd have the resources, the refinement, or mining, or finding the resources, mining the resources, refining the resources, getting it into workable pieces, and then machining and putting it all together to a product. Which all along the way you can have negative effects that are the pollution byproducts, the fuel usage. What fuels are you using to power that whole system? And also the good side effect you could have from it is you employ people doing this, because you're always going to need. I mean, human labor will never be completely eliminated. That's all there is to it. We're always going to need people. You know, you can automate to your fucking until you're choking to death in water and your neck deep in it, but it's still, there's always going to be crap that you can't automate. It's the main things you can automate are those repetitive actions for the most part.
If we want to talk about like causes and effects, right? Like, it's not the fact necessarily that McDonald's is, quote, selling the hamburger, or even so much that they're producing garbage. Okay, it's the fact that the organization is so big, and whatever effects it produces, positive or negative, have so much reverberation and like consequences to them that, you know, that they're kind of out of control. They've kind of become out of control. Like,
yeah, if you got a country and you got a chain of 100 McDonald's, like, not so bad. If you got a country and you got a chain of 20,000 McDonald's, you might have a problem.
It's like a giant that shrugs. Like, the giant, like, all it did was shrug, right? But like, when it shrugs, like, the earth fucking moves. And like, part of the problem is we can't let anything get that big. We can't let anything get that big to the point where if it even moves, like, or something happens to it, like, the society collapses. And
I
so many of our institutions are like that now.
I believe you're quoting like the FDR thing to a degree, the worker bill of right thing. It's protection from monopolies and unfair competition, which we have both of them currently and in gigantic degrees.
Yeah, and it's just, again, it's a matter of, you know, it's all too easy to say communism, it caused X, Y, Z in the USSR, and it's all too easy to say that capitalism is causing X, Y, Z in the US. It's not so much the systems, it's the fact that they are out of our control and are too big. And the same thing happened kind of with the USSR. The system got a bit too big and too out of control. That's part of the reason why it collapsed. So rather than arguing about like this system or that, or focusing our attention on these ideologies, you know, we have to.
I was more or less just looking at a business model
on effects, whether we're talking about McDonald's or something else. Like, we can't talk about it in terms of McDonald's selling hamburgers. We have to talk about it in terms of the trash that they produce and the secondary effects that they produce.
Oh, even their primary effects on food.
Yeah, it causes all kinds of health problems and shit.
Well, it's not like it's very nutritious or anything. I mean, it's not even like I can't even go into a McDonald's without feeling sick. Like, it's nasty. Like, it just smells like somebody dropped you into a deep fryer, and not a nice deep fryer, like a deep fryer where the oil's been in there for like 9 weeks and people have been frying everything in there.
Well, another gross fact is that, okay, like most of the grease in the U.S. is produced, most of the rendered grease in the U.S. is produced in California, right? And California has very lax laws about rendered grease production. Okay, there's two basic kinds of rendered grease, right? That, like, the stuff that's fit for human consumption and the stuff that's fit for animal consumption. Now, in the stuff that's fit for animal consumption, they've been catching them doing things like using pound animals, where like you just put a bunch of pound animals into a grinding boiler and, you know, you turn them into rendered grease. You know, animals that had been euthanized at the pound. So they caught them doing this. Like, the animals were still in their bags. They were still loaded up with sodium pentothal or whatever the hell they used to kill them. And like, they caught them doing this, right? Now, it's illegal, but the fines are basically nothing. And you make more money by cheating than by following the law. So
the system incentivizes criminal behavior.
Well, this is the worst part of it. Like, the other thing that they catch them doing is selling animal quality grease as human consumption quality grease.
Oh,
because you sell it for a higher price. So, you know, this stuff is loaded up with like pieces of plastic and sodium fucking pentothal or whatever they use to kill pound animals with.
I think sodium pentanol is truth serum, isn't it?
Is it sodium pentothal or is it sodium? You could be right. There is a, so like if Snork were here, he could tell us.
I think he is here, isn't he?
It's whatever you use to euthanize animals.
Wait, 1 second. Why do we have 3 Ebons?
So anyways, like, of course, like McDonald's and every other fucking thing in the country, every other goddamn restaurant or food producer in the country uses like rendered grease in their products, except for, you know, a few like some organic companies or whatever. So the chances are that you've already eaten some of that shit in your lifetime, probably like gallons and gallons of it.
So, Stevie, you got anything? She's still there?
No, she had to go check up on her kid.
Yeah, it's beyond belief, man. Like, people thought that we'd solve these problems a long time ago. They stopped.
But they're not really hard problems to solve either.
Well, after, okay, like, was Sinclair Lewis wrote The Jungle? Like, there was a big movement to improve quality of food production, right? And they kind of fooled the public. They were like, yeah, we've like, you know, read the book and we're listening to the consumer. And it's, to some degree, it was just a public relations campaign, and quality standards have gone up. You know, sometimes they've taken great leaps, I'll give it that. But we're on the downward side of that with global trade agreements. When we have to, like, you know, buy products from a certain company or risk economic sanctions or having to pay fines or getting sued because, you know, we won't accept some global standard on what constitutes food quality.
Well, literally, I mean, with the hydro, I mean, Snork's already said it for, what was it, Finland or Norway or one of the other, next to the United States, they're the largest agricultural producer on the face of the planet. You know, and that's because year-round hydroponic growing. We could easily not have to have any food imports whatsoever within the United States and have absolutely everything we want. That's completely doable.
Yeah, like, I believe in, like, reestablishing some protectionist policies and scrapping some of these global institutions. You know, I mean, because they're faulty. They need to be taken apart, and maybe someday when we're ready, because we're not ready now, dude.
Well, I say tear it down now. We'll have better results than trying to tear it down 20 years from now.
Yeah, and I don't believe in tearing all these global systems down, but some of them have got to go. Like, especially some of these trade-related ones. Like, I believe in keeping the UN.
I don't know about that.
I believe in maybe modifying...
Look who's on the Human Rights Council.
I believe in maybe modifying the UN's role in the world. But
also, look at who makes look at the 5 countries that have all the decision power.
The core organization of the UN in place. I believe maybe it should be changed a bit. And yeah, I mean, the U.S. dominates UN discussions.
I mean, they try to. I mean, these countries need to be treated like sovereign countries. I mean, the UN is basically it's the opposite of that. It's like it's a global governance crap. I mean, half the time these people, you want more control by the people of the government, but you want to form a UN that specifically subverts control of local. Like, that's so contradictory.
Nations need a place where they can gather on common ground.
Yeah, gathering on common ground
and conduct political and trade discussions and human rights discussions and things like that. They need a forum like that. Like, the UN should not be completely dismantled by any means. Its role as a paramilitary force needs to
this shouldn't exist.
Needs to end. Like, its role as, like, a global, like, pipeline and, you know, culture war institution needs to end. Like, there are several things that need to change about the UN. But, like, at the core, there needs to be a place where nations can come together in such a way. And I think scrapping the UN would be a bad idea because of that. Because starting from scratch at this point, dude, isn't going to fucking happen.
Well, I think we'd revert back to the League of Nations, wouldn't we?
No, like, the League of Nations was a failed institution.
Yeah, but I mean, essentially, the idea of it wasn't so bad. It's when it started getting twisted into that UN any crap, it turned to shit. There is possibilities of that working, but it's like that whole it just got so twisted. It's like, and that's the biggest problem with these large, overreaching global institutions people try to make. Half the time, you get rid of them, you fucking have better results. Well, actually, way more than half the time, like 99.9% of the time, they have better results. I mean, look at the IMF. Is that a good idea? No.
Yeah, you know, it's like I said, like there's things that need to be changed about the UN and a lot of these global institutions. But there's no, that like going back to some kind of League of Nations model definitely wouldn't work. But the core principle of League of Nations and the UN, which emerged from it, like they're the same. And it's about providing nations a place where they can sit down and like have discussions about things.
Yeah, but the UN isn't sit down and have discussions. The UN is any decision power is held within 5 large countries, and everybody else can fuck off. I don't give a shit what you say, you know. And it's not about benefiting people, because most of the programs they try to do, or the most humanitarian crap they try to do.
You're talking about UN Security Council.
Well, yeah, but huge chunks of it are embezzled money. Like half the time, this thing is just robbing shit. It's not even doing anything.
Like the news in the U.S. about the UN comes out through UN. It's almost always about UN Security Council in one form or another. Like either like it's UN Security Council disguised as a human rights initiative, or it's a straight up or an economic initiative, or it's just straight up UN Security Council.
Or feudalism disguised as like Agenda 2021.
So you got to understand when you're hearing certain things about the UN. What they're talking about is U.S. Security Council actions. Okay, so when we talk about the dominance of like U.S. and the Israel lobby in the UN, okay, what we're not talking about. What we're talking about is UN Security Council. The UN is like a giant organization with many facets. All right, and I'll grant you that most of them serve UN Security Council, directives. But again,
yeah, I'm completely against it. I think it should be going away.
You can't.
I say scrap it all. You just, one place to where representatives of countries can meet and talk to each other. Great. Having a UN that tries to place itself over all the other countries like a global sort of hierarchy government. No, thank you. Don't want no part of that.
That's the cartoonish view of it, man.
That's not the cartoonish view of it. That's what they've been trying to do. I mean, what do you think you have a climate Paris agreement and all this crap? I mean, seriously, we don't need any of that crap. This country literally if literally people got their fucking minds together and realized, okay, we have mass amounts of resources. We have mass amounts of engineers, mass amounts of workers, mass amounts of money, mass amounts of wealth, mass amounts of everything. We can literally, and we've already been proven to where we've had the largest productive capacity in the entire country. That can all be completely rebuilt within a matter of 5 or 7 years. I mean, and literally load the entire world with fucking renewable energy. We can fix climate change on our fucking own. Literally, 340 million people, we could fix it on our own if we gear that fucking capacity towards actual production and something useful to the whole planet. I mean, that wouldn't take any UN, that wouldn't take any bullshit. That would just take money, people dedicated to it, and fucking private business, and a little bit of, not like private business, like more like, I mean, I've seen businesses that actually handle themselves accordingly, and normally they end up getting ground down and run out of business. Well, I want more of the ones that handle them properly and kill off the ones that are crooks. And then we can refresh this whole thing to where it works a lot better. And we can actually get something done instead of the bullshit UN crap that never gets anything done. All these resolutions, all these sanctions, all this bullshit, all the fucking proxy wars, it never gets a goddamn thing done. I mean, mainly it's about energy for the proxy wars. It's about energy and resources. Well, we increase efficiency, we'll have more resources. We tap energy that we are not currently tapping, we'll have substantially more energy, and we can produce chemical fuel if we need it. I mean, all this, the United States can be 100% self-sufficient. I mean, we there's enough scattered out materials across the United States where we've got a bit of everything, so material wise, we really don't even need trade to do everything we want. I mean, we are shorter on some materials than other countries, but I mean, overall, land mass and the amount of stuff we have access to, we're set.
Dude, you're all over the place. Like, the first thing, okay, remember how we were talking about giants, right? Like, the UN is almost the ultimate one of those giants. Like, aside from some of the bigger energy companies, when it shrugs, the world moves. In addition to that, it is yet another system that is only partially under human control.
What is that?
It moves and flows like according to its own forces. It's like an ocean.
Well, it's not. It's not its own forces.
So, like, if you try to,
when you're talking about an economic system, there is no its own forces.
Let me finish. All right. So yeah, I'm sorry. That is the way things work. Like, people like to believe that, oh, the billionaires are in control. No, the billionaires have the most influence over.
When I was taught, when people say that's the way things work, disregard everything they say because they're full of shit.
All right, I forgot my point, dude.
Well, that was fun.
It's just another thing of Kevin screaming over people and not letting them talk, but I don't know. What are you making there, champ?
This is fresh caught trout, please. So the trout I got today is dinner, late dinner. So I just used brown butter, fresh garlic minced, black pepper, and that's pretty much it. And then some lemon juice afterwards when it's on the plate. Ah! Dang it. Trying to record this and cook at the same time. Great. So did Kevin leave on his own accord?
Yeah, he just left. You know, he didn't like the fact that I wouldn't let him constantly interrupt, I guess.
I was listening, but I didn't quite grasp what the argument was.
We were arguing about the UN. The final point I was going to make, I'll just finish my point for whoever's listening, is that, that the UN is another one of these organizations that any single group of people, even the most powerful within them, only have so much power over, right? Like, people say that it's the billionaires and stuff that control society. It's not really like that so much. It's that billionaires have more influence than most people do over the system, which is kind of self-determining. So what I'm arguing against is just simply, if you just go along the process of dismantling these systems, you're going to run into a lot of problems. You're going to run into people starving. You're going to run into disorganization as far as trying to further global environmental efforts, a whole range of problems. There has to be some parts of these systems that we want to get rid of that are worth keeping. And there are many parts of the UN that are worth keeping.
How would we decide that? Which parts are worth keeping and which parts aren't?
It would depend on what we are trying to do in any given instance. Like, are we trying to, solve our energy problems? Okay. We need to have forums where nations can sit down together and work out these problems. We can't just abandon all of our international organizations in the face of a crisis and then start over, then try to reform all of our organizations and then address the problem. We have to keep enough of these organizations so nations can work out agreements of various sorts. Specifically, like what resolutions should we keep and whatever, I don't know. I'd have to look. I mean, that's probably a question for an attorney.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the basic principle means that there has to be some kind of a framework that they can work together.
Now, which countries would stipulate that? The top 5, or a bunch of, is it like put it to a vote?
Well, that's the way it is now. And most UN resolutions ultimately, in one way or another, serve UN Security Council resolutions. So,
sorry, switching.
If you want me to lay out a plan on how to reform the UN, I can't do it. That's a question, again, for probably teams of attorneys and teams of experts, teams of sociologists, teams of economists.
I see. Which teams, though? I mean, who gets to be on a team and who gets to? That's the problem with such a big organization or whatever you want to call it. It's like which one's going to represent which, and then how is that going to be fair to all those that aren't in that team or the countries that aren't represented in the team? You know, it's kind of like the Olympics. Like you have all these judges, and you know, how are some judges from certain countries seem to be scoring things differently. They have their own agendas, and how can you trust that?
You can't. And the ultimate question goes beyond all of these, like whatever forms these, you know, systems, political, economic, or military take. There's always the core thing behind them, which is, you know, human nature. Like evolution has designed us to be a certain way and to deal with the world in a certain way. You know, we seek advantage because our genes tell us to. We compete because our genes tell us to.
Yeah.
You know, people aren't completely rational. So discussing things, you know, is it even possible for people to reform at this point before they bring disaster on themselves? Who knows? Like we've talked about before, it's like the gumja bomb. Are you human enough to keep your hand in the box? You know,
Yeah.
despite the pain, knowing that if you take it out, you're fucked.
Yeah. I always thought that. Well, that's another tough part. Like I was thinking of, suppose you had it so you can vote. I think the Olympics did it so you take away the top score and the lowest score. So maybe in these teams and whatnot, it's kind of done the same way, where everyone sends in someone that they would represent or want to be represented on some type of team, and then it's based on a vote system of like everyone votes on who gets to be in, who doesn't, and the one who's, I don't know, that doesn't make sense though.
Well, the core principle remains, dude. Like, no matter what systems we create,
Yeah.
if human nature remains the same and people don't start wising up, then and realize that there's a wider interest beyond just their own, then all systems are open to corruption and distortion to serve the ends of, you know, the people who control them or in key places in them.
Yeah. No matter what, you can't have a fair system unless everyone participates to make that system fair. But it's easier to do on a smaller scale, but on a bigger scale, I mean, I don't even know if that's even be tried.
I don't know. The core question to me is: are humans rational enough, and are they self-aware enough as a species to create sustainable systems? Either we are or we aren't. You know, and the sustainable systems aren't going to come about because we trick people or reward or carrot them, or like stick and carrot them with like laws. They're going to come about because people as a whole adopt some philosophy. Don't ask me what this philosophy is, that allows them to deal with their animal nature while simultaneously being rational about what it means to survive on the earth. Don't ask me what that philosophy is, but like that's the way forward. It's either that or we can try genetically engineering people, but I think that's a dumb and dangerous road.
Well, didn't that genetically engineered person end up being the real Hezrak Shadrach, whatever you call it?
Yeah, we could start selectively breeding people. Produce someone who can see into the future. They'll tell us what to do. Lead us down a golden path.
Great. It all boils down to Dune. But would you consider Dune as a sci-fi or sci-fi fantasy?
It's sci-fi fantasy, because you know some of that shit isn't real. It's like almost like magic, you know. Like Star Wars is sci-fi fantasy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess even with specific breeding, you don't think we might be able to get to something where a human might have certain characteristics that might have been might be deemed impossible now, but could be in the future?
I believe that selective breeding, like, I still think it's kind of fucked up because our understanding is imperfect, but it shows more promise than like genetic engineering. Genetic engineering is just like you know, the 1800s equivalent of brain surgery. Like, we don't really know what we're doing, like, in the long term. We have certain maps and we know certain things and can play with things in a certain way, but we're playing with forces that are millions of years old and are extremely complex. So yeah, I mean, someday we could definitely breed people with superhuman capabilities, what we would consider. Maybe not magical abilities,
yeah,
but like things that maybe we would be surprised about. Like, people, there is evidence for precognition in people. You know, that a certain percentage of the population has a higher incidence of being able to exhibit precognitive traits and remote viewing. You know, things like that. There are people who have described things in past lives that, you know, science can't really explain how they did that. So, I mean, who knows? If we started breeding for some of these crazier traits, who knows what we could get?
What about unlocking parts of our DNA that's been closed off? Like, for example, there's a theory that to unlock a dinosaur, or to bring back dinosaurs, we would basically reverse engineer a chicken type of thing.
Yeah, we'd flip like just a couple of genetic switches on a chicken or something. Like, it's not really that big of a leap, I guess.
I mean, do you think that's going on today, where we're doing that with humans? We're reverse engineering humans?
I would say people are doing that in secret labs. Definitely. People are, if I was a betting man, I would definitely say people are doing that in secret labs. Yeah. And definitely in countries like China and most likely here in the US.
That's messed up, Doc.
Yeah, kidnap people, man. Like, I believe that they populate people out of the population occasionally. Disappear them.
What do you think they're trying to find?
Any number of things, man. You've got a human test subject. You can do all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah. Like, are they, like, I guess super strength? Because I figure our ancestors, before the brain started becoming a bigger and better thing, we probably relied on our physical attributes, much like the apes of today.
There's probably a lot of experiments with cybernetics and a lot of experiments with, you know, gene alteration. I could definitely, I mean, see that they're probably way more advanced into cybernetics than like we have any idea of. You know what that is? I couldn't tell you, of course. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can make some guesses, but we've been like, there's evidence of straight up cybernetic research going back to the 60s. So we've been studying, and even really before that. So, I mean, if we want to, you know, think about how long we've been studying this stuff and the leaps in technology we've had since those periods, you can't tell me these people are not doing that because of ethics. Oh, they're too ethical to do that. The U.S. government would never do something like that. Give me a fucking break, man. They've taken people and put them in mental institutions and like tried to erase their memories. And I mean, this is documented. That's what MK Ultra was all about. Like, it's trying to fuck them up. And that's just there's a few cases like that, and those are just the ones we know about. The ones that are really horrible, we'll probably never find out about.
Yeah, I was wondering about the people who don't believe in conspiracy theories, and then mentioned that the government, like actual projects like MK Ultra and whatnot, what their thought about that is. Because, I mean, do they not believe it? So they only believe certain things that the government tells them? Or, I mean, what's their thought process on that? Because if the government actually says, yes, we did this, yes, there were things that we did, and they admit it, then their thought is, I mean, it's the whole cognitive dissonance thing again. I mean, do they do they just start shaking and like blow up? Because I kind of seen that happen, or they're trying to fit in that logic, but then they can't because either they won't or they can't. They can't. I don't know.
What logic? You kind of skipped out there for a second, like there was some interference.
Oh no, I try to take people down these logic paths, and sometimes I see them thinking, and then they just try to formulate a. It can't be true, so I have to figure out a way to make
Oh, I
the
see.
logic
Yeah.
not make sense, rather than
At least looking at like the evidence at all. Like they'll just outright dismiss it. But and that's one tactic of getting around it, is just to, just deny. That doesn't happen. Like do you have, I don't want to ask people to prove a negative, but at the same time, I mean, can you consider that it could be a possibility? And if they say zero, that there is zero possibility or a near zero chance of that happening, then I probably know that they're being irrational, because there is at least some evidence. I mean, if you ask me, there's documented, it's not a matter of asking me, there is documented evidence of many of these things going on in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they're putting the chance of these happening at zero, then they're not thinking. They're just not even bothering to think about it. So, at the very least, you got to say that there's some chance of these things happening based on what we know.
Ryan. Yeah, I know. I guess. Well, we're basically kind of. That's where it's just science meets religion type of thing. We're trying to follow the logic. Others are just saying, how can you not believe? Or how could you believe? Or it's just a different thought process that people want to go down. I mean, for example, why would you trust scientists because scientists say this thing? Then not all scientists say that thing. Or, that's the whole purpose of science, is to repeat that experiment to see if you get the same results. And and so if it's not repeatable, then even though they say there's scientists, there's experiment, then it's just a bunk experiment. That's a bunk hypothesis or bunk theory. And that's another thing, we have to I was going down a path and I couldn't quite get there. Sorry, I'm still eating dinner, so I'm not like focused.
Trout River, that's the path you're going down. How is that trout, anyways, man? Is it pretty good?
Yeah, it's good. I love trout's still probably one of my favorite fish. It's just the non-fishiest tasting fish that you can eat.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see.
I'm not a big fish eater either. I just tend to stay away from the fishier varieties. That's why I don't like Dungeness crabs, for example. Like, have you ever had a Dungeness?
Oh, dude, I love crabs. Dungeness crabs, even.
You love Dungeness? See, I don't like that, like Dungeness. Like, I like blue crabs, and I like, Arctic crabs and whatever. But I don't. The Dungeness ones. Yeah, king crab. Mm-hmm. But the Dungenesses are too fishy.
Yeah, I could get your point.
Definitely bottom rollers, man. Like all are, but
my mom, when she makes the crabs, she makes it really spicy, so you don't really get to taste that fishiness in the crab, like Dungeness.
Yeah, that's completely possible. Like maybe I just have never had it cooked properly.
And there's certain ways of preparation. For example, if you've got like a muddy tasting fish, like typically a catfish, and what you do is you put it in a bucket of water, clean, clear water, and when the water starts turning brownish and brackish, that's because the fish is filtering that water, and so it's getting that cleaner water through its system. So when you actually kill it and prep it for food, if all the brackish water is out, you get that less muddy taste. So you could probably do the same thing with crabs, because you could probably filter the crabs out with the cleaner, I guess, salt water, and just it probably tastes less fishy.
Yeah, that's what you do with blue crabs, like Gulf crabs. But I've never caught a Dungeness, so I don't know. I've just had them Like I bought them from the store. I've had them in restaurants.
Oh, okay.
So I never caught a Dungeness. Like the only kind of crab I've ever caught was a blue crab.
Yep. And those Dungeness get big. I remember going to Seattle maybe 2-3 years ago, and I just missed the crab season, and I was really, really itching for catching some Dungeness crabs. And instead, when I go there and I'm like on the shores or on a dock, I just see literally tens of 20s, 30s, I don't know. It was a good amount of huge Dungeness crabs just crawling around, and I couldn't catch any of them. It was illegal at that point.
I love crabs. I love eating crab, and except with like the Dungeness, of course. And I love crabbing, man. Crabbing is so great. Like you just tie like a turkey neck in a basket, and then you just start drinking. And the day goes by, you pull up, like you've got all these crazy looking crabs in there. Like we would soak them like that, but like after the first couple of times of doing it, I learned to stun them. Like what you want to do is you got to get them out of the damn basket, and they'll fuck you up if you're not careful. They have sharp edges, and the claws are sharp. And just try to throw them onto ice. Throwing them onto the ice stuns them, and then when they're stunned, then you can throw them in the water, in the bucket of water.
Yeah, because typically where you catch the fish, especially like blue crab, I mean, if you're not going on a boat, you're catching them on the shore. That area of water where they're living in, before they go out to the sea, the bigger parts of the sea, it's brackish. So it's good to filter them out.
Where I was catching them was like, Mississippi Delta. So it was like, that's filthy. Yeah. This was before the spill. I wouldn't even do it now, man. Not after the spill. There's
Why not?
Because there's a mat of fucking whatever on the bottom of the Gulf.
It's good for you. It'll put hair in chest.
Yep, it'll make my ancestors more resistant, or my descendants more resistant to these toxins if I survive.
Think of your descendants. You gotta build the immunity now. You gotta make sure that your DNA gets changed right now, so they get that immunity.
Yep. Start exposing myself to more radiation. Start drinking, like maybe drink like half a cap full of bleach every day. Something like that.
All right, let's see. How do I show myself and then exit? Sorry. I don't know which one is me.
Check.
All right, there we go.
It's a miracle.
Yes, back to normal, I guess. How do we end up going back to food? We always end up going back to food.
Crabs. I could definitely go for some snow crab or something right now, the more I think about it.
But one of the things I like that I want to try out, because the only crab that I'll eat at a restaurant is the stone crab. And do you know why?
Why is that?
In Florida. So the way that they get stone crabs is they capture the stone crabs, they tear off their pinchers, and they throw the crab back. And the crab actually, I think it's when they molt, I mean, they'll still survive, they'll still live, and then they'll grow their arms back, or their claws back bigger the next year. And so they're not killing off the crabs, although I don't know how well they actually survive without their claws. So I don't know what the math on that is.
Seems like a form of torture to me.
Yeah, it does. I mean,
maybe it's just better to kill them.
But I mean, their population doesn't go down that much, I guess I would say. I mean, they don't have a problem. So I would like to actually see the numbers, because it's hard to find the numbers of like wild populations and see how drastic it is. And it's like the same thing with Maine. If you go to Maine Lobster Association, like I might be okay with eating lobsters from Maine because they make sure that the population's okay. So they'll only grab ones for a certain size. If they're big or if they're female, especially that have the clip that's had laid eggs before, they throw them back. And they just make sure to do that to make sure that it's
a sustainable, because it's their sustainable livelihood. They want to make sure that lobsters, they just don't what do you call it? I'm trying to say outsource.
Like drain the population.
Yeah,
overfish.
But you can't overfish lobster, so it just doesn't sound right. Over lobster.
Overharvest.
There you go.
Probably it. Yeah, it's just, and all these, if we're going to talk about seafood populations and the state of seafood in the world today, then we have to discuss Fukushima.
Yeah.
Like, I've been watching some terrifying videos about Fukushima lately, and,
Or just talking to Snork. That'll do it.
Yeah. And, like, Nash is mentioning scallops. Like, I could eat a gazillion scallops.
Mm-hmm. And they're filter feeders. We need more of them. They actually clean up a lot of the stuff that's out there. Although, whether you want to eat the stuff that they clean up through themselves is another question.
Yep, it's all good in the end, right? That's what the seafood companies tell us anyways. Yeah, just try to eat open water. Like, now you're basically fucked, because eating open water, if you're eating Pacific seafood, means that, you risk the chance of ill health effects if you eat it on a regular basis, at least. And then, you eat farmed fish. That's definitely no good for you, or farmed mussels or anything.
Well, it depends on where they're farmed and how they're farmed. You kind of have to go to each farm, I guess, to see how they do things. I would love to be able to have some sort of like a brook or a stream and just kind of do my own farming of like trout or sunfish, yellow perch, or whatever. Oh, rainbow smelt. Oh, actually, hold everything. I would love to just have a population of rainbow smelt within a small fishing pond. That stuff, those. Whew.
It's like smelting time pretty much right now here.
Oh yeah.
Like, people just, there's so much smelt around. Everyone has these smelt. Like, I can eat a certain amount of them, but after a while, man, I don't know. There's only so much fish I can take, really.
That's right, yeah.
And cleaning smelt, fucking. Like, after you get done cleaning smelt, you don't want to eat them.
Why not?
Because there's blood, cum, and eggs everywhere. Like, you've just cleaned 100 smelt.
Yeah.
And they're in there when they run up the rivers. That's when they're breeding, so they're full of all the reproductive gunk.
Here's some things that I just tapped in: Fukushima radiation in Pacific Ocean. Look at that one. That's big old cancer or something up there. And then there's the kind of re-streams of contaminated the entire Pacific Ocean, and it's going to get worse type of thing.
Well, I was looking at these graphics. I saw either this graphic or another one, right? And I looked at it, and I noticed Australia down there. And I'm like, man, Australia lucked out. Well, it turns out that what the world is planning on doing, and some parts of the Australian government are complicit in this, is kind of using Australia for the world's nuke waste dump. So don't think you're going to escape, Ryan, just because you escaped this latest fucking disaster. If you go up, there's that one that has the pixelated. There you go. That one was one of the more. I don't know if the specific video, what the deal with it is, but it shows the graphic that I'm familiar with. This shows the distribution of, radiation. Like, this was at like 3/27 and onward, 2011.
Yeah, they got the date right there. Oh man, my DLive is actually not bad. I don't know what's going on there.
So this gives you an idea of like the initial contamination. And as time goes on, they just, they haven't found a solution to this yet. And some of these things have enormous half-lives. Even the least of them have half-lives that will continue throughout the rest of our lives.
Yeah. Do they show what the color coding is?
I'm not sure about this specific video, if it shows it. Like, there was one that I watched that showed it, or at least it was explained.
Oh, wow. Now it's all just dissipated. Whew. All
so there
right.
you go. There's your, like, Pacific king crab. Look at the state of Alaska. They've been reporting just massive die-offs, like 80% decreases in fishing stocks, crazy things like that. And there's really no end to it.
Oof. Pacific tuna and Alaska salmon. Emergency closed, 90% collapse. What is that?
They'll be calling you a radical, so I don't think anybody can really wrap their mind around how epic this is. So I got to explain. And look, all you investigative journalists, you go all over the internet, all over these investigative journalists, all they do is use old stuff from 2020, from 48 Hours, from Frontline, you know, compare all these. They go to a certain level. It's like they get into the sound. I get deep in the sound because I'm at field. I do the active. I'm an activist. I do the work. I'm out and about half a year, so I meet these people. I talk like Greenwald. I know Greenwald was a CIA plant. I knew that Laura Poniez handed the chip.
Okay.
What's this guy going on about? Yeah.
I was expecting some demonstration. Now he's gone down rabbit hole level 10.
Yeah, that wasn't the best example to use, but oh well.
Should we keep going to see where it goes?
Yeah, you know, and part of my theory is they push videos like this up to the front when people are trying to do research to make it look like, oh, there's a bunch of fucking crazies again.
Maybe.
When...
Yeah, I could see that.
To Greenwald, I knew that was a setup on Snout, and I knew that Laura Poinez's father's the one that killed Aaron Swartz. I know it because I knew Aaron Swartz. I met him in Brooklyn when I was out in the street doing the work. I do the work. Look, this is such a major deal, and I should explain. A lot of people don't get this. Spring Chinook are kings. They're the most hallowed beast maybe in the world, definitely in the Pacific. They're the basic fundamental creature of the mama, the birthplace of all life, the Pacific. I fight for her, she fights me, the mighty blue lady. The Spring Chinook is everything. They only travel up the long rivers. Now, I want to explain. This has been an emergency closure in the last. This is so paramount. You don't get this. You don't get this. That the woman at the...
You don't get it, dude.
Columbia.
You just don't get it.
There's still no fish over this. This is beyond epic. This is beyond scary. This is beyond this. The end of the ecology. Oh, boy. You know something. Look, they go to sea for 5 years. I said it's going to collapse in 20, so you would listen to me. You call yourself an environmentalist? You call yourself a human rights activist? Hello? Are you kidding? This is the greatest event in human history. You're talking the death of the Pacific Ocean. You know, I posted that Fukushima, you don't even know what it is pointing into there. To think they're pointing, they killed it. They killed it. What, to protect the nuclear industry? These madmen, the same people that cut down the sequoias, same people that slaughtered the buffalo, same people that, look, the Shasta in India who are on the Spring Chinook.
I don't think I can follow this guy. He's just going everywhere.
Yeah, he's too nutty to get into, like, I think I agree with his general sentiment, I think.
Yeah. Ooh, white goo? No, I don't know. I mean...
Well, but, you know, if depending on like how detailed we want to get into, what you look for like a university talk on it.
Oh, okay. How about that? U.S. university testing animals specific gets shocking results. Dabu.
Just type in .edu instead of university. Maybe it'll help. Maybe it'll give us something. Maybe not. Lecture, forum, or other keywords you could use. RT did something.
I like Asian boss. They always like interview Asians. I wonder if they
check it out. Let's see what the attitudes of the people of Japan are about this.
They're pretty clueless. But we'll see if they are or not.
Or at least how this thing presents them as being. You know.
Yep.
福島原発の事故から5年経とうとしてるんですけど、実際その外国人の人とかで、例えば日本に行っても安全なのかとか、日本に住んでる中で放射能の影響による健康を気にしたりとかってしますか？
しないですね。全然何も考えてなかったです。私は特にないです。私も特にねないの。もう影響が全然ないので。もう特に何もしてない。原発のことを考えたりとか全然もう普通に過ごしてます。
もし例えば原産地とかが福島だったとしたら買いますか？
普通に今まで通り日本の国内で作られているものだったら安心して食べてます。私も買います。国産っていうあれで別になんかそんな意識しないと思います。
今は問題ない買ってます。三陸のね。
普通に多分買っちゃいます。何も考えずに。食べます。逆にそれがなんか福島のためになるかなって思ったりもしますね。起きたばっかの1年後とかその近い時は気にしてたんですけど、今は結構除染がされてたりとか綺麗になってるんで 全然食べるし、
実際今うちで食べてるお米が福島産のやつなんですよ。福島の農家の方の知り合いがいまして、でそこは正直国の規定のレベルをちゃんとクリアしているお米だからっていうことでしっかり食べてますけど、野菜だったりとか海産物だったりとかっていうのはどこで取れたのかっていうのはちょっと気にするようにはなりましたね。
海外の方たちが思ってるほどそんな風評被害影響はないと思うんですよ、私たちから見たら。そうすると福島の農家の人たちが頑張って作ったのがすごい風評被害を受けてて、すごいかわいそうだなと思って、輸入制限が結構かかってるんですけど、日本食品に。でもちゃんと検査してるわけだし、日本でもそこまで制限することもないんじゃないかなと。
福島のもの自体が安全というのはどこから例えば情報を得てるんですか？
私は福島に住んで友達が何人かいてるんですけど、でもそんなに気にすることはないよって言ってて、メディアでも最近はもう安心ですっていうのを結構日本でも言ってるんで。
メディアですね。メディア。
Pause it a second, dude.
Yeah. Media.
Is the chat able to even read those subtitles? I wonder.
It might be small, but I think they'd be able to read it. Yeah. And so basically, if you weren't able to read it, so a lot of them are saying that it's safe to eat. They know someone from Fukushima that's saying I wouldn't worry about it, and the reporters asking where do you get the information that it's okay to eat, and they're saying mostly from the media. And it would be like, what I love about this Asian boss, sometimes they'll find this one token old guy who's like, oh no, I wouldn't eat it. He would be the most wise person out there, just telling it like it is. It's and it's pretty funny. But anyways, we could continue and see if there's that token old guy that makes sense and is wise and doesn't trust the media. And
yeah, sure. I mean, as long as the chat can read the sub, that's my only concern. Is there's no point in playing if they can't understand it.
Yeah, I can. I usually look and I can read it. So if I read it, they might be able to. We'll see. All right.
あるでしょうけど、
実際もほとんどがニュースとかですね。あと正直スーパーマーケットとかに売っていればこれ安全なんだなっていうような感じでは思いますね。
もし福島が自分の故郷だとしたら、今現在そこに残りたいと思いますか？
残りたいです。復興が進んでないところもあると思うんで、助けていきたいと思います。
生まれたとこだったらやっぱり残りたいです。
悩みますけど、やっぱり復興の手助けはしたいと強く思うかもしれません。でもずっと入れるかっていうと結構考えてしまいますね。やっぱ自分の子供がいるんだったら子供とかもやっぱり影響も考えてしまいますし、
そこ地元帰って働いて復興の支援をしたいなと自分の地元だったら思いますね。ボランティアもすごい日本から。
Sure.
Like what they did, and just as a side note, I'm having a hard time paying attention to what that girl was saying because of her friend. But
stop reading the subtitles. Stop looking at the.
But what they did now might have these numbers off. But what they did was they in order to declare Tokyo safe, what they did was raise the acceptable levels for a citizen used to be at 2 becquerels per year or whatever, right? You could have two of these units per year and still be considered under the safe limit or at the safe limit. So rather than evacuating Tokyo, what they did was they all of a sudden basically overnight changed the safe limit to 20. It was an order of magnitude of 5 or 10 that they increased it by, even if I have the specific numbers wrong. So these people are totally snowed.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just if they're interviewing people in America about anything. Right, and if you get all their information from the news, they're like, "Yeah, it's fine. Oil spill, no, I'd eat the food from the Gulf. I mean, the oil spill, they said they cleaned it up. Shell said they cleaned it up. It's clean. You can eat, right?"
Go ahead, dude. Keep going.
Yeah,
Keep going through this.
いてるし、
私は思うと思います。やっぱり自分が生まれ育った場所なんで、周りの日本とか海外とかの人たちにもし故郷が福島だったら福島に戻って安全だよっていうことを逆にもっと広めたいなって思います。
個人的な意見でいいんですけど、実際の福島の現状ってどうだと思いますか？
いや、だいぶ和らいでるでしょ。
一部はどんどんこう除染とかが進んでるけれども、一方では全く進んでないところもあって、
福島の現状はもう立ち入り区域がもう相当無法地帯になっていて、正直チェルノブイリよりももうレベルが高いものだっていうような報道もあるので、放射の濃度が減るまで何百年とかかると思うんですけど、復興はなかなか難しいんじゃないのかなと思いますね。
日本で報道されるそのメディアとかって実際その本当のことを言ってるって思いますか？
私はちょっと本当のこと、隠してることもちょっとあるんじゃないかなって思いますね。
全部が全部
違うと思うな、
私も実際に見たら全然違うやろなって思いますね。
メディア偏りあるからね。なんかメディアが発信してるのを自分が見るわけで、そうするとメディアの情報しか入ってこないから、そのメディアが映してない情報が知りたいよね。
テレビとかでもこうバラエティーとかでもそうですけど、終わった後とかになんかまだ復興支援が足りないっていうような宣伝はよくされてるんですけど、実際にそれを見てもわけでもないのでどうなのかわからないし、
日本でも原発についてはもうほとんど報道はされていない状態なんですね。なので正直放射能が今どこにどれだけの濃度であるのかっていうのはちょっと日本の国民でもあまり細かく理解している人はいないと思います。
将来日本を離れるっていうそういうオプションがあったとしたら、原発とかの影響でじゃあ日本離れたいって考えたことってありますか？
ないですないです。日本は結構安全だと思います。普通に他の国と比べて。
ないですね。私はもう日本が大好きですから。はい。
ないですね。原発のことが不安で海外に行きたいとは思わないと思います。
むしろね、協力してみんなで復興をねしていきたいよね。
いや、そこまでないですね。
ないですね。日本に降りたいです。もう日本ぐらい安心して暮らせるとこないんちゃうかなって思いますね。
You know what I was imagining while they were saying like how safe the radiation levels were? It was like they'd have an eyeball fall out of their eye socket and say, "Yeah, it's safe. I've been eating Fukushima food all year." Like, yeah, there's nothing wrong. You can see like their fingers melting off their bones.
All right, so try this. Type in Fukushima garbage bags shoreline.
Okay. Fukushima garbage bags.
Shoreline. There we go.
This one?
Yep.
RT1?
That looks like a good picture of it.
But isn't that Russian?
Well, I'm in the service of Putin, dude. I thought you figured that out by now.
Yeah, I knew. I didn't know you'd be so openly blatant about it.
Well, I tried to cover it up, but we don't have many viewers tonight. I think we'll get I'm not sure if they're going to have any text or any commentary over this. But all of that is highly radioactive nuclear waste that they've scraped out of the plant, put into garbage bags, like these, I'm sure they're high quality garbage bags, but they will decay within a year or two.
Sucks for that worker. That worker.
And then there's the shoreline. Is that the shore? Are we up on the shore yet? But anyways, all this shit is pressed right up against the shoreline. So when the next tsunami comes,
I think you're lying. I think that's just sandbags.
It's safe.
That's a lot of trash. Radioactive material.
Yeah, you can shut it off, man, so we don't have to listen to that insane noise.
I could just muted it too. I'm sure they're fine. They've dealt with radiation before. There's like this. What's this? This is nothing.
Well, in addition to all those garbage bags that are filled with highly radioactive waste, like the whole interior of the plant grounds and the facilities around them have these giant metal containers. Like they're these little silos, and they're filled with water. All of this water is extremely radioactive, and they just don't know what to do with it anymore. They've just completely run out of room. So one more storm, like it won't even take a tsunami to wipe all those garbage bags out to sea. It'll just take a decent storm.
Yeah. Why garbage bags?
No other solution. I guess like they had to get it out of there. They had to just do it fast. And then they just keep piling them up. They don't really have a solution. They're not really looking for one either if they're still storing stuff in garbage bags. TEPCO is too big to fail.
Jeez. And I thought we were going to go for light topics tonight. So much for that.
Crabs. I tried to talk about that hot girl, but you weren't going for that. You were too busy actually reading the text.
If it was Jenks, then I would have paid attention towards. So, like, what happens media landscape wise or national security wise for different countries if that does happen? Like that storm, I mean,
it's going to cause cascading effects. Like for 6 months or something after that happens, probably not much will change. And then as economies and other secondary effects begin to settle in, like chaos erupts.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that certain countries aren't wanting to say anything about it if it's affecting their either economy or their health. I mean, they could maybe at least get some money from it from Japan. But of course, I think it goes deeper than that. I remember Snort talking about it. And it's just the entire network of all the countries that have nuclear facilities. It's like, yeah, it's deep.
The International Nuclear Regulatory Commission, like Japan itself has been squelching internal dissent on this topic.
Yeah.
Like you go to fucking jail if you misreport some of the misreport some of this stuff.
Let me see if they have it.
It's little wonder that those poor people are delusional. Like in one of the videos I watched, radiation levels in Japan are 5 times the acceptable limit. Or in Tokyo, I should say. In Tokyo. Like people shouldn't be living there anymore. They should evacuate Tokyo, and they should evacuate like huge portions of Japan and move people to other portions of Japan. That's the only real solution we have now.
Isn't this interesting? I mean, I'm still typing in, I typed in Fukushima dissent prison in here. Japan's secrets law could jail whistleblowers for 10 years.
The now defunct Lip TV, which actually had some good content on it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what do you mean? Did they get?
Lip TV's done, dude.
It feels like we're living.
What happened to them?
They just died out. Like they couldn't compete with TYT.
So they just stopped?
Yep.
Ready for
Oh, come on, stop. I don't want that. Oh, yeah, for a year ago. Were they any good?
The Lip TV produced some good content, definitely. There was some garbage on there, but like they definitely produced some good content. They had a good series where there was this female attorney, and she would go over all kinds of issues. It was really good. She would go over everything from these mystery cases to these specifics about legislation. And then on the opposite end of that, you had people like Sean Stone, who I could do without. It's not like I have anything really against him, but I just don't think he's very interesting to listen to. So it was a mixed bag, but they got shut. They lost the game. They couldn't compete with TYT.
But why is it a competition? I mean, why does it have to be a competition? Where did they go? Did they just go back to their day jobs, whatever? I mean, it seems like 300,000 subscribers isn't something to laugh about. I mean, that's good.
Well, back, if you think about it, before, like, kind of very recently, a lot of these companies were still on the old media model of getting sponsors of various sorts, like commercial sponsors.
Yeah.
And, there's only so much room for that back then. Like, not many people were really even willing to invest in internet programming back then.
A year ago?
Like 3+ years ago, whatever.
Yeah, but they're still going strong a year ago. I mean, their last videos was a year ago.
I don't know, man. It just seems like they ran out of money. They could look into it more, but it just seems like they ran out of money. Like a lot of their videos wouldn't get a whole lot of views.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a shame. Again, they produce higher quality content than TYT for sure. That's not saying much. I wish that they would have survived rather than TYT.
Yeah.
They had a variety of programming as well. So, but yeah, they'll jail people for reporting shit on Fukushima. They're trying to force people into living there again, which is beyond ridiculous. Like they've been providing these people subsistence, shelter, and food for multiple years now.
Mm-hmm.
And now what they're saying is that you have to go back. You have to go back to your lands if it's at all possible.
Now, Japanese seem to be the people in general, and I don't like generalizing, very submissive, especially of government. Like, I don't ever see them having an uprising against their government for keeping it a secret, or that suppose all hell breaks loose of how harmful the radiation from Fukushima is to the Japanese people, especially near Fukushima. Like how?
So, from what I've seen, to some degree, that is a stereotype. There's a lot of protest movements in Japan, and they get kind of crazy sometimes. Like a lot of the right-wing ones get kind of crazy. And then you have these really insane ones, like the ones who sarin gas that subway.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That was basically a revolt against the political system. That was political messaging is what they were doing there. The right-wing ones are totally off the hook, man. They'll walk around neighborhoods and shit out of people in groups.
Hi, Amanda's here.
Well, Amanda, you're taking over for me. I got to get something to eat, man.
Okay, this is one of the areas that I know what I'm talking about. When you said that they're submissive, I had Japanese exchange students for about 10 years straight, and it was quite amazing how they couldn't think or feel outside of this box, and it's like I had them for like 2 months solid, and it took about a month for them to finally break down and feel the freedom of speech in order to tell me what, and some of them cried, and some of them just were so bitter that they had to go home, and it's like, right. I mean, they're just.
It's like that with Korean culture too.
Oh, really?
Pretty submissive people, I guess. I mean, it's I think a lot of it based off of culture, tradition, and language. At least for Koreans, I'm not sure about the Japanese culture too much, but you definitely have a higher respect for your elders. But that also the speech intonation. So you have just kind of like the Spanish language. There's a formal and the informal way of speaking. So anyone older than you have that formal way of talking.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if you hate them or if they're like the biggest bastards in the world, or jackasses, whatever, assholes. You still have to do that. Respect the language, the respectful tone, rather than the very informal tone.
The first few times that I had them, the first time really shocked me because she treated me like I was her master. And it was like, okay, this is not going to work for me. This is kind of like freaking me out, And so I had to work with her to just, like, relax, older. You don't need to do this with me. And then we became really bonded, and she was able to start teasing me. It took about, that 30 days of changing a habit. There, it was kind of like I had to work with that with them. And to get them to not feel guilt, I said, you're over here to have an American experience and to learn about America. So, try to experience it. I thought if I know, such fucking bad manipulation technique. But it worked, and I suppose if it's for the good, it's not really bad.
Well, it might be bad when they go back to Japan doing the things that they learned in America. They're like, wow, this Japanese person just came back and is so disrespectful now.
I know. I thought about that, but I wanted them to have a taste of what it's like to.
But it's good because I feel like the culture there, for certain specific Asian cultures, that you have to be respectful to elders or people in positions of power no matter what, even if they're corrupt. And that kind of leads to very easily being taken over by an authoritarian / totalitarian type of government. So you can
they never did lose their respect, but it was just eased down a bit, so they didn't feel like they had to jump whenever I breathed, and that was uncomfortable. But oh my God, every damn time it was time to put them on the bus to go back, I broke apart. It was like they became my kids, you know. I bond so easy, you know. I mean, I take in stray dogs, and 3 days later, it's my baby, right? So we would cry, you know, and it was hard. I mean, just sending them back into such a what I view as a kind of like a cold society. But I guess they have a warmth in their own way.
Yeah, I remember watching a show. I think it might have been Asian Boss, but they're talking about like displaying affection or love. It's like they go. I think there are clues. I'll look for it, see if they have it.
Oh, that would be cool.
I think it's just displaying affection, maybe. Let's see.
I got to learn authentic Japanese cooking though. That was cool.
Sushi or
I can do sushi, but just all kinds of dishes. I think I'll start cooking more of that. And
let's see. Okay, here. This is what I saw. I'll share it. So this was what I thought was kind of wow. Why the Japanese never say "I love you"? Panel discussion. And 7.5 minutes.
One thing Japan is often known for is how they express their emotions, or rather the lack of expression. Within this, we wanted to explore the relationship between parents and children and how they relate to each other. So today we're going to have a group of Japanese people talk about this matter. 日本って親ってどうやって愛情表現をするんですか？例えばアメリカみたいにこうやって愛してるとか率直に言ったりするんですか？
言わないですね。日本って言葉とかで予測したりとかすることがやっぱ日本人はすごい多いと思うんですよね。
私のイメージではその結婚式のなんていうんですか、手紙でこう初めて言うとか。
例えばね、僕の話をすると、例えば父親が日本人なんで、愛してるっていうのは絶対言わないんだけど、でも何かあったらこの人は守ってくれるだろうな。
それはすごいありますね。
別に何も言わなくてもそれが体で伝わってくるみたいな。
率直に意見を言うのが、最近は悪くはなくなったんですけど、私が中学ぐらい、10年ぐらい前になるとすごい悪いものだと思うんですよね。なんでそんなに自己中なのっていうふうに考える人が10年前ぐらい多分いたのかなと思って。
じゃあ日本って両親に何でも話したりできますか？
僕はできないですね。
恋愛の話とかは多分しないのかなと思います。
女性は母親にはするけど、お父さんに話すのって多分女性は少し難しいと思うんですよね。恋愛の話は多分母親経由で聞いてるのかなとは思います。母に言ってても。でも母に言う言葉も限度はありますよね。親にはいい関係でいるよっていうアピールをしたくって結構安心させたいんですよね、やっぱり。
日本ってあんまりスキンシップって取らないじゃないですか。例えばアメリカとかだったらハグだったりするかもしれないけど、日本ではあんまりそういうような文化がないと。日本人の一般的な人って親とハグしたことってありますか？
それこそ子供の時は絶対ハグされたりとか抱っこされたりとか、一緒にお風呂入るっていうのが日本の文化であって、小さい時から自分のお父さんとかお母さんとかおじいちゃんおばあちゃんとかと一緒にお風呂入ることがあって、それが結構小さい時のスキンシップだと思うんですよ。男性がなかなかどうしたら握手になりそうな気がするんですけど。
なんか握手ってちょっとおかしいですね。親と握手みたいな。
握手してるかも。
一般的に例えば大学だったり普通に社会人だったりっていう中で、例えばどれだけみんな両親と連絡取ってると思いますか？
独り身だったら多分連絡しないんじゃないですか。
それって何でですか？
話すことがない。
オレオレ詐欺とかもその男性がしてるっていうのが
だからオレオレって
オレオレ詐欺って何ですか？
詐欺会社の人が息子を装ってその会社で100万円必要なんだ、だから今日中に用意してくれ、その僕の代わりの人を用意するからその人に100万円渡してくれとかって言って、
親特にお母さん、
高齢者ですね、
もうおばあちゃんぐらいにもっと50代とかの息子が50代ぐらいの
40、50代ぐらいになって、ずっと連絡取らないから、やっぱり急にお金が欲しいって自分の息子が困ってるってお母さんの思考回路を利用して、詐欺に使ってお金を引き出してもらったりとか、電話だと少し。
But anyways, it's into the scam stuff, which is so sad. I mean, yeah, imagine never saying I love you to your children or giving them hugs after they've kind of grown up or something. She give them a handshake. That's a little weird.
Now, that was what I was well aware of. I just hugged them anyway. And, you know, finally, they would come around, and they would come around like the corner into the kitchen, and they would start hugging me. So it's like, I don't know how to be anything different than that, and I think it would have stolen their true experience of what this American woman could give them if I didn't try to put it on them a little bit, you know. But obviously they loved it after a while, and then they looked like they were hungry, like they were starved for it, and so I just kept doing it. But it was a heartbreak to send them back.
Yeah. Do you think it's a good thing for them to keep their culture that way, or it'd be good to kind of expand out and kind of embrace other cultures in some ways?
Well, I talked with the teacher about it. There's the same teacher every year, and and when we sign this contract, they are to learn our culture. But I went into their culture too. I learned a little bit of Japanese and learned from them, proper way to set the table, and so I did go into their world too. It was just the emotional attachment that I wanted them to experience. I found out that the word kite is like our taco.
What? Okay.
The word kite is taco in English.
Okay.
But and that's always stuck with me for some reason.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I love them.
Oh, what's going on?
Oh yeah.
I think well, it's
what surprised me in there. Oh, it was the sons. Whenever it's kind of surprised me that the sons would leave their moms like that.
Leave?
Yeah. In the video, it said the sons don't usually
contact or call their moms or whatnot.
Yeah.
That is a little weird.
Yeah. That does leave the elderly mothers open to everything.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel that's also kind of, because I think but it might be different than the way that we think about it. Like, we would think about it as rude not to call, say hi and keep up, just show them that we care. But I think their culture is different, because it's more like, if you call and you haven't seen for a while, then you must be in trouble. It's like, maybe calling your elders once you've kind of gone away is more disrespectful to your elders, like, because you're troubling them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the process. No, it's always interesting to see other cultures take on certain things. That's kind of why I like watching Asian Boss every once in a while. But I don't know, sometimes I just see like the people are very similar to us. They kind of just draw their conclusions by what they watch on TV, the media. And then you get, sometimes what I like about it is they do have that one old fella that's like wise behind his ears, saying the truth, and all this stuff is like, that guy's right on.
They're saying out there that it's still buffering and the sound is bad.
Oh, I've had that issue before. Let me see. I might have to.
I thought when I got in here, it just corrected itself, but it's a lot better in here.
Okay, let me see. They might not. It's not on my end. I got no drop frames. My internet's good, especially when we're here. Anyways, maybe it's just time to stop. Or maybe they want us to stop, whoever is interfering with our connection. Or maybe they're doing updates, because we're having Blizzard here soon, so maybe they're trying to shore up some things. Anyways, I'm sure maybe someone will continue. It's 12:20.